Hello, this is Katie O'Regan. I'm the director of the Star City Film Festival. I'm here in Waukon, Iowa, and we have the most special guest with us today. He is our guest of honor for our eighth season, Max Allan Collins. Welcome, Max. How are you today?
Just great, and delighted that I'm able to be a part of this festival and that you invited me.
Yeah, well, you were not only an amazing filmmaker, you have quite the career as a writer, and you're especially known for Road to Perdition, which is a very famous movie with. Uh, I think everybody almost knows, for every generation that I've ever talked to knows who that is. And you wrote the novel for Road to Perdition, correct?
Yes, there's a graphic novel was the first thing, and then I did a novel version to be out, a novelization to be out when the movie was out, and then we had a situation where they wouldn't let me put anything in the novel that wasn't in the movie, which is peculiar since I was the source writer.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I mean, it was it was about 80,000 words, and they made me cut it to 40,000 words, which that's half. I can do the math. So I waited for a few years until I could get the rights back, and then we published the 80,000 word version of it, the real book. And then there were two sequels, Road to Purgatory and Road to Paradise. And those are actually out in kind of uniform editions now. You can find them on Amazon. And then there's been a sequel to the to Road to Perdition as a graphic novel, and we did two graphic novels kind of set within the time frame of the movie and the book. It was the father and son on the road being chased by gangsters as the father and son turn into bank robbers, and so there's now kind of a body of work for Road
Right.
to Perdition, and so
And you started it all.
yeah, well, there is a story behind that. Would you like to hear it?
Yes, I would love to hear it.
Well, I did the Dick Tracy comic strip for 15 years,
Mm-hmm.
the writer,
Oh, cool.
and they changed management, and there was a guy, the editor there did not like me. It's hard to imagine anyone not liking me, but I found myself after 15 years, and I was pretty resentful because I kind of restored the strip a bit because it had been kind of fading in the papers, and we came back. There was a movie, 1990 movie with Warren Beatty that I'm sure you're familiar with,
Yes, I love
and
it.
I was involved to some degree with that, and so now suddenly my meal ticket's gone. I was doing other things, but that was it's unusual for a freelance writer to have a weekly paycheck,
You're right, correct.
and I had a weekly paycheck for 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
Not bad. That was, but then when it stops, it's there's a great emptiness that happens, at least in your wallet. And right about after I kind of scrambled around. I did short stories and so on, and I also had lost a book contract, which was kind of the nail in the coffin. So my wife Barbara and I went to a convention in the San Francisco area, and I have done some. I was one of the mystery writers, one of the few, maybe the only one, actively writing comic books as well as novels. And so this editor came to me and said, "We'd like you to do something like your Nathan Heller novels," and I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit.
Yes.
And I said, "Well, we'll do a Nathan Heller graphic novel," and he said, "No, we want our own thing." And so off the top of my head, I pitched Road to Perdition.
Wow.
There were several elements that came together. One was a series of new movies and manga, Japanese comics,
Mm-hmm.
called Lone Wolf and Cub, which was about a father who'd been was the betrayed executioner for the shogun in Japan, and he was traveling around with this infant child in a baby cart and having adventures and being pursued by the shogun's people. And then there was this guy, real life guy named John Looney, who had a homicidal son named Connor Looney, and these are
Right.
real people. and Looney
From
was
Max from Muscatine or from the Chicago. They're from Chicago
there
area.
from Rock Island.
That's right, Rock Island, right? But the Quad City's not far from where you live.
That's about 30 miles from me. Looney was basically the godfather of Rock Island. And I I have this thing with the Nathan Heller novels where I like to be as accurate as I can be. And so I found this wonderful material about him in research, but it took place a little bit before my novels were going to begin. And so I just kind of had someday I'll figure out something to do with these. And I added those two things together, plus my son Nathan and I, and at the time he was way too young to be watching this stuff, but we watched a lot of Hong Kong John Woo type crime movies and
Yeah. I love those.
Adventure movies, and so I'm steeped in all this Asian stuff, and then we have John Looney to deal with, and so again, sometimes when they say if you got something, there's only one answer: yes. What is it? Well, and then you think fast, and it was just so the most famous thing I do was something that was just thrown in my lap, which is kind of wild. But that's just the way it works. You go along and you do things methodically, and once in a while lightning strikes. I always describe every project that I do as being a lottery ticket.
Nice.
And very rarely you win the lottery. And I've won it 2 or 3 times, which is more than most people. And then,
More than most people. But can I just
Sure.
add one thing? Lightning strikes, but you're prolific. I mean, you do the work. Best-selling. How many bestsellers have you had?
well, I would say, the Nathan Heller books are I don't know, 8 or 10 million copies.
Right.
Yeah, and Saving Private Ryan was 1 million copies. The Dick Tracy novel was 1 million copies. I think
Copies.
Air Force One and a number of the movie novels that I wrote, and that, as I think you know, I wrote. First thing I did really for Hollywood was write novelizations.
Could you explain for the listeners what I know what you're talking about, but could you explain to people when you say novelization? Can you just?
Well, they're not done as much anymore, but when you move the clock back a little bit, before everybody had the ability, either a VCR or something to time shift, if you went to the movies and it ran 2 weeks, that was it.
Right.
Right? And so the novelizations became a kind of a video cassette on paper. And in other words, it's a novel version of the movie. And it's trickier than it sounds because movies are exterior.
Right.
Novels tend to be interior. Now, I love that because that allows me to go places with the characters that, that the movie can't. And usually movie scripts are, I would say, I think you'd agree with me, they 100 pages.
100 pages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I always had a contract to deliver 300 pages, which to the publisher. And so I did those for that was another thing I did after I lost the Dick Tracy strip. I did that for about 15 years. And I was very and I loved it because I'm typed as a mystery writer, which I like because that's who I am.
You're typed as a world famous mystery writer.
Well, I don't know about that, but I'll accept it. But the novelizations of movies meant I got to write, I wrote a Western, I wrote The Maverick, I did Air Force One, which is kind of a political thriller. I did 3 novels about all 3 mummy movies. And actually, the first mummy novelization is one of the rarest books by me and goes for $75 on the internet.
Really? Wow.
Well, but these books are only out when the movie's out.
Right.
And then they just
special collectors.
Yeah.
I know you have a following of people that collect like this this type of thing. Now, could I get that in the library? In a library, could I special?
Well, now some of them you may be able to. I know that Saving Private Ryan got a hardcover edition. It wasn't just a paperback, and you may be able to get that through a library.
Cool.
But it was a very interesting phase of my career, I would say. and
Yeah.
allowed me to learn how to do a lot of different things, sword and sorcery and romance, because I got some really, really good assignments. And also, a funny thing is that my agent, when we got the first one of these, which was Air Force One, he said to me, "Well, of course you're going to use a pseudonym." And I said,
And you're like, no.
"Why would I want to use a pseudonym?" He said, "Well, because these are movie novelizations and they're ephemeral." And I said, "Why would I?" And then you look at Saving Private Ryan. Why would I not want my name on Saving Private Ryan?
Exactly. Good for you.
And,
Smart.
and the other thing is that one of the major readers of those novelizations were teenagers, were high school kids.
Uh-huh.
And if you get a reader at that age, you have them for your whole
Yeah.
career.
Exactly.
They're loyal. They're
Right.
loyal. And the other thing I did, there's a separate branch of the novelizations, which is original novels that are done for like TV shows. And for about 8 years, I was the sole licensing writer for the CSI TV show. And
That's
those
pretty cool. I was
those
reading
are
that.
all I think there's 8 or 10 of those. Those are all my original books. And I wrote a video game, which I couldn't play, but I wrote the dialogue for, and so I get to sit there and listen to, all the actors from the TV show reading my script. And we did, I say we because a fellow named Matt Clemens was helping me, and he's from the Quad Cities. And we did jigsaw puzzles. We did, you name it. We did, because there was a lot of, it's licensing.
Right.
Licensing that property. And when it started, I think the show had been on the air for about 6 weeks, the first one. And so we had to kind of build from the ground up, what's their backstory? And they ended up sometimes using stuff on the TV show that we came up with. That was a good gig, as we say.
Yeah. Really good gig. Very good gig. So how often, so you seem that because you have such a vast array of writing experience in the business, because you've done, that's what I'm fascinated about your career. I mean, you've hustled and you keep doing it, and you're very flexible, which is the mark of an extremely creative person. I'm really impressed with it. I'm not saying it just to make you feel good. I'm just very impressed with how you have been able to.
I do feel good when you say that. I'm going to
well, good. You should. You deserve it. You deserve it.
But I think the most interesting thing is that I've done it all from Muscatine, Iowa.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah.
I love that. Go Iowa. Go Iowa. I know you navigate your career.
Yeah, and it's centrally located, so if I needed to go to New York or need to go to Hollywood, it's not a hardship. This is the town that I was born in and grew up in, and my family was and is here. I have 2 grandchildren who live up the street from Barb and me.
That's
and,
great.
And my grandson, who is 9 and going to be 10, every Saturday afternoon we watch a movie together.
Oh.
And we watch a lot. I've seen more computer animated movies than any other adult But we started watching things like Indiana Jones and, Star Wars. And so it's a lot of fun.
That is a lot of fun. You're a good storyteller. It's the Irish in you. Collins, you're a damn good storyteller, you are, lad.
There's probably a leprechaun in the woodpile.
There's a little bit of the. Well, our film festival, the Star City Film Festival, is a very Irish town, Waukon, Iowa.
We're going to be able to get some corned beef and cabbage.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. I might have to special order something.
Just special order me.
I can cook. Listen. I grew up with 6 brothers on a farm in Iowa. Even though, and I'm I've cooked.
I don't want to know some of the things you cooked.
I'll let you. Well, when you come to our festival, I will personally cook. We're having a very special barbecue in our new outdoor theater, so you and Barb can have some good.
Well, the film part of my career also flowed out of the fact that I lost the Dick Tracy job. I was looking for different things to do, and got the opportunity to put a movie together called Mommy, and that was 1994. And that was a good project. I mean, we got on Lifetime, and if this dates me right now, but we got in the Blockbuster chain.
Yeah. No one cares how old you are, Max. We don't care.
Store wide, you know.
Right.
And we did a sequel, and then, frankly, I had a producer steal some money from me, and so our next productions were lower budget.
Wait, did you do this? Did you do this? Did you produce Mommy?
Yes, yeah.
I didn't know that you produced it too.
Yeah, I directed it and produced it.
You directed it. Okay.
And then I kind of got the bug for it. Then even though because our funding kind of fell through, because once somebody steals from you, investors don't have a lot of confidence in somebody whose partners stole a bunch of money.
Yeah.
So I kind of went in a direction of figuring out ways to get stuff made and keep doing it. We did one movie called Real Time, Siege at Lucas Street Market, that was primarily shot on video cameras, on store. I shouldn't say video cameras. I should say surveillance cameras. It was there's a robbery at a grocery store, and we did a found footage movie using video camera footage. That was, of course, us shooting the video cameras. It wasn't a real robbery. And then I did 2 documentaries, one of them for the University of Iowa, which was about V.T. Hamlin, who was the creator of the comic strip Alley-Oop, and he was an Iowa boy. Mm-hmm. And so I went in there and pitched it to them and said, this is an important person in Iowa, and he's a comic strip person, and I'm a guy that works in comics. And so they backed that. We did that there. And I did a documentary on Mickey Spillane, the mystery writer, who's was a good friend of mine. And we did a thing called Elliot Ness: An Untouchable Life with my friend Michael Cornelissen, the late Michael Cornelissen, a great actor. It was a one-man show, and we did it at one of the bigger theaters in Des Moines, and then shot it. And it was on PBS in Iowa PBS, and it's still available nationally. And I think we did that for like $10,000. But it doesn't look like we did it for $10,000. I can tell you that much. So I was figuring out ways to make something out of nothing. And we did this. I did this for probably on and off for 20 years, as I'm doing my novels and I'm doing my comics and so on. And then, frankly, Mike Cornelissen, who had been part of every one of my movies and had been the narrator on the documentaries, he passed away, and it kind of took the wind out of my sails. And then Road to Perdition came along, and I was really involved in that, and so I hadn't really done any local independent filmmaking for, I think, 2006 or something. I thought, well, I'm kind of retired. I'm not going to do that anymore.
Yeah, right.
And then a few years ago, just a few years ago, like maybe 3 years ago, somebody came to me and said, we want to do a fundraiser for the local arts center. And we thought it'd be fun to do a old-fashioned radio show, and thought you could write a Dick Tracy radio show. And I said, no, I don't do Dick Tracy anymore. I don't do anything to promote those people.
Right.
And I just said, thanks, I'd like to help. And then I went home and I thought, well, I had written 2 audiobooks, Mike Hammer audiobooks that Stacy Keach and a full cast had done. They were essentially radio plays. So, and one of them had actually been produced as a radio play with, the microphones. It's kind of a funky, retro-looking thing.
I love radio play work. In fact, at the film festival, we're doing radio play with a couple new films. So
yeah, and we did this Mike Hammer thing called Encore for Murder twice, and because of the area of the country it was in, a friend of mine who had been in my movie A Mommy's Day, the actor Gary Sandy, what is it? The WKRP Cincinnati.
Yeah,
he had acted for me, and so and I said, would you do Mike Hammer? Would you be Mike Hammer? And so they used him, And it was, it was a paying production. People got paid, and I know some of the people from. Trying to think of, but it was one of the big, not Second City, but one of the I think Duck's Breath Theater. I think were the people that were involved in putting that on. And so when this thing happened several years later, and they said want to do a Dick Tracy radio show, I went home and thought, well, I really got a My Camera radio show. So I called them up and said, I'll give you, you can use this. I said, all I ask is that I can come to the first rehearsal and see who you've cast. And, this, I'm not looking to direct it. I just would, it's my material and so on. And then very early on in the process, they kept saying to me, well, can you get Gary Sandy to come in? Can you get Gary Sandy to come in? I said, Gary Sandy's not going to come. He's not going to come to Muscatine, Iowa for no money, for the art center. I said, I'll call him. I'll do my best, but he's not going to come. He said yes immediately.
Yeah, because he's working with you. So there you
go.
Well,
he's just a wonderful guy. And so he came back and we had it all rehearsed, and he only had to be there for one rehearsal day and the show. And of course they're using scripts, but he was pretty much off book.
Oh wow.
I'll tell you. And so the week we did that, the week we were putting it together, I'm thinking, actually, Gary came in a day early, and so we really actually had 2 rehearsal days with him, now that I think of it. And that was when I called Phil Dingledine, who has been my cinematographer and a lot of things, from Davenport. Okay, this is all Midwestern. I said, Phil, I think you should get some cameras, and we should record this. Because anytime you do a play, it's ephemeral, it's gone.
I know, it's so true.
I said, this is pretty cool. I don't know what we're going to do with it. So Phil came down and we shot it. And my editor is a guy named Chad Bishop, who was the producer on and cinematographer on my most recent movie, which we may talk about a little bit.
Yeah.
But it was just, Phil said, okay, and Chad and I edited it into a 90-minute program. And so I approached, what I did with it was they were going to bring out a revised, lengthier version of my Camera documentary. And I said, I got a hell of a special feature for you.
Yeah.
So I gave him that, and then the company also brought it out separately. So Encore for Murder came out separately. And it's really just a recorded play. But Gary is really good in it. I mean,
oh, I'd love to see that.
Yeah, he's spectacular. There were bumps in the road. For example, we had one of the cameras went out. We didn't know it till afterwards. One of the cameras went out Saturday on the performance night, but we had shot the dress rehearsals, so we were able to use material from the dress rehearsal. So we had a play that was complete, and it was all local people.
Yep.
And it also introduced me to a bunch of area actors here.
Yeah.
And so I had a couple of projects that I'd never been able to get off the ground. And I just started thinking, I have my juices flowing, filmmaking juices flowing again, of course. Mm-hmm. And so we did this thing called Blue Christmas. And it also was, I think we had $8,000, but we had one set. It all plays in one set.
I watched it. I loved it.
So you know that movie, yeah. And it was shot in 6 days, mm-hmm. and it's all local people.
And they did a great job.
And,
I loved how you shot it because you did it because the genre was one set. You made it like an our town. I loved it.
It's basically, it's the whole concept was the Maltese Falcon meets A Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
And so the detective, who's kind of a stinker, he has these dreams through the night where he's visited by by these ghosts. And then right there, and we play stuff out, as you know, we play stuff out from his past, just right there and use what's around. And it had originally been written for me to have, a real budget and go to all these locations. And I came away thinking, I kind of like it this way. And
Yeah.
we've actually had people say, you need to present this as a, like a community playhouse thing that people can, it should be available as a play. And one of the funny things about the reviews, we had about 16 reviews. They were all on the internet.
Mm.
And we had probably 13 that were really favorable.
Mm-hmm.
And they often did say, it's kind of like a big community playhouse production, but it's really good,
Yeah.
And then there were two or three reviewers who were just like, this is ridiculous. This is so low budget. And yet they couldn't, I think running a film festival as you do, you have to meet every film on its own terms.
Absolutely.
What were the limitations?
Mm-hmm.
For one thing, what are they trying to accomplish? Now, if somebody comes to watch a film and they don't agree with what you're trying to do, you're not going to get a good reaction from them. It's just
Right.
not going to happen.
They lack imagination. People sometimes who lack imagination cannot look at someone else's work and view it from their perspective. And so that's not your problem that they lack imagination.
But
it's true.
And then of course that went well, and we decided to try to do one more, and that's Death by Fruitcake, which you're going to be presenting at the film festival. Very tickled that you've chosen to give us a kind of prime spot.
Yeah, we're premiering it. We're doing the Saturday night premiere we're going to have you speak after the film. It's literally everybody come to Max Allan Collins' new film, and we're absolutely showcasing you. And I think the actors were great. First of all, I love your writing. Okay. It's a great story. The direction was really good. And in your actors, I love all your actors. Rob Merritt is a great actor.
Paula Sands, who plays, there's two leads, the mother and daughter.
Yes. Yep.
And the mother's very eccentric. And they run an antique shop. And it comes from a book series I've been doing with my wife for like 20 years. Yeah. So there's like 19 of those. I think she's working on number 20 right now, awesome. Doing her draft. And this is the first time I've had the opportunity to really take one of my books, my book series, and the fact that it's done with my wife makes it even more special. And so we put, figured out a way to do this, not in one set, but at one location. So it all was, except for a little B unit, was all done in this theater building. Mm-hmm. And I just was we were all over the building, and it has a little auditorium so we could play, the play within the play, this absurd play within the play. Mm-hmm. But the actors who play Vivian and Brandy Bourne, the mother and daughter, Vivian is played by Paula Sands, who was up until, I'll tell you that little story too, but she's an Emmy-winning broadcaster from the Quad Cities and was huge in the Quad Cities.
Oh, yeah.
Just huge.
Right.
And then the daughter is played by Elizabeth Von Presley, who's been on, American Idol. She's American Idol, and another one of those shows like America's Greatest Songwriters or something.
Yeah.
And kind of a Midwestern star, even so.
Oh, she's a Midwestern star for sure. She's so talented. Her voice is amazing, and she's a great actress. So.
She's fabulous. I mean, these two women, they're great. And then we have Rob Merritt, who's a guy who's been in lots of stuff, and he was the lead in Blue Christmas, and he does a great job. He's kind of their foil.
Very natural.
Yeah.
As an actor, I love that about him. It's you cast him great in both of those roles.
Well, and we have Chris Causey, who had played Marley in Blue Christmas, who is the terrific actor. And what's really great about having an ensemble like that, first of all, you can draw upon them. But like Chris, I had to go to him and say, Chris, this part only has like 3 scenes, but one of them is a banger, you're not above the title this time. He's like, I'm there, I'm there. Because there's a lot of that local enthusiasm is wonderful to see. It really, really is.
Well, it's so much fun to work with people that you get to work with again in this business. It's, you form a bond with people, of course, as you know.
Yeah.
I love working with other actors. As an actress, I love working with other actors. I've gotten the opportunity, and other filmmakers. We have, like I was telling you before, we have returning filmmakers who I'm putting in my next movie as actors too. So it's really, we have to stick together. We crazy creative people. We
That's true.
support each other, and I love to support other artists. That's why I do a film festival. That's why I like to share. It's my greatest passion in life. It really is. I've never done it all to have it just be about me, because it's no fun doing everything by yourself.
No, and I think that is what attracted me initially to independent film, uh, because what I do generally, my main novel writing
Solo
is
gigs or
very
with,
solo, very
yeah,
solo.
yeah. It can be lonely. I'm glad you have Barbara to write with. That's really, because, and yeah, it's lonely. People, you don't just come up with this massive novels. Have you, as you, by, just going out and talking to everyone else. You're sitting in there and doing the work.
Now, I have to tell you what the secret of working with my wife is. Her office is on the first floor, and my office is on the second floor. Therefore, we stay married. And
I get it.
she does we kind of semi-plot it together with a lot of loose areas that she can fill in. She does a draft, and it's kind of a short draft of the novel. It may, if we're supposed to turn in 300 pages, she may give me 250 pages.
Okay.
And then I do a whole draft and get us up to 300 pages. And it's a humorous, and that's what we should say. If anybody goes to death by fruitcake, you're going to laugh with us, not at us. I mean,
It's very tongue in cheek. I loved it. I always watch when I choose a film, for the film festival, and I choose all of them. I handpick them. I watched it. I was like, oh my God, this is funny. It's so dry.
it's funny. Yeah, it is funny.
It,
And Chris Barber and I always say, I mean, she puts in every joke she can think of, and then I go through and put in every joke I can think of, and then it seems like we're hilarious. This one, because we write as Barbara Allan. That's our pen name, joint pen name. But and she's been my in-house editor forever, and then she also had been a very successful short story writer. And kind of had trouble transitioning into, the short stories don't pay very well, quite frankly. And I mean, there's not many markets for them. And so I wanted to transition her into writing novels. And, and her inner self is a short story writer,
okay. Yeah. Yeah.
miniature. And so she's learned to spread her wings a bit on that. And we did 2 novels to get 2 antiques novels before we started that series, and Barb did one essentially by herself, a novella last year. So we're a little cottage industry.
You definitely are. Not a
And
little.
the
Big
one thing I wanted to mention too, because it relates to what we've been talking about, but I recently did an epic audio drama.
Oh.
It's called True Noir: The Assassination of Anton Cermak, and it's
Okay, say that again, because as a podcast, is it a podcast now?
well, you can get it as a podcast because it's 10 episodes.
Right.
We did it in 10 episodes, and you can buy all 10.
Okay.
And there's a version that is the credits at the end of the shows are edited out and saved for the end. But the cast, if you see the cast, it's phenomenal. It's like David Strathairn and Anthony LaPaglia and Bill Mumy and Patton Oswalt and Renee Taylor and Barry Bostwick and Jeffrey Combs, and I mean, just
Rock star.
on and on and on. And Robert Meyer Burnett is the director, and he was great because first of all, he's great. Second of all, he let me. He's out in California doing this with all these actors, and he let me attend by Zoom.
That's so great.
And then he would come over to me and say, basically get my approval, like, well, so or ask me questions about pronunciation or whatever, or what, why is this emphasized? And then I explained to him, well, this should be emphasized for this reason. So that's out there right now. It's you can get it at truenoir.co is where you can get it right now. Truenoir.co.
Got it.
And of course, that comes from
Okay.
now we're coming back around, that comes from my Nathan Heller series, which are these novels I've been writing. First one appeared in 1983.
Yes.
And that's what this, what True Noir, Assassination of Anton Cermak, is based on. And they are novels that have I would say, traditional private eye, and the Philip Marlowe, Mike Hammer kind of mode. But he's involved in true crimes, and they are true crimes. It starts in the 30s and it goes up to the 60s. And they are crimes that are either controversially solved or unsolved. So I put him in, and then I research them as if I'm going to do a nonfiction book.
Okay.
And then when I get to the point if I could write a nonfiction book in the subject, I write a private eye novel instead. And he is generally the only. There's sometimes a few others. He's generally the only fictional character in any of the stories. What's been great for me creatively is a lot of times if you have a private eye series, even the people we like repeat themselves. It's like, and people like that familiarity, but they're all kind of the same. And, they all take place in Manhattan, and, and there's gangsters, and, there's all that stuff. And it rains a lot, But, I am going from one famous crime to another. And so this one will be set in Chicago. Then you do Huey Long, and he's in Louisiana. And then you do the Roswell incident, which is in Roswell. And then, so I'm, the Lindbergh kidnapping. Well, I went to where the Lindbergh kidnapping actually took place. So the subjects take my character along. So he's never in the same story twice.
That's amazing.
And that's what they want. That's what Road to Perdition was a spinoff of, basically.
Yes, I knew that because I've read a couple of your Nathan Heller books. I a long time. I remember. I mean, when people didn't know, I remember distinctly reading this. I think it was 1988, as a matter of fact, because I was living in Chicago. And I was thinking, oh my God, as an actor and a, director type of person, all I could say about your writing is it's so vivid. And you really can't put down these novels. You really can't. And I can put down a lot of novels. I read a lot. But yours is definitely they're always page turners, and they're always movies in my mind. And that's why people love them.
Well, and that this is what we hope that the True Noir audio drama will lead to at least one movie. I've already done a script for it, so we're
good.
We're ready to go. I can't because there are things, there are scripts I write that I can't do. I can't do them in Muscatine, Iowa. Right. I can't do them on a shoestring budget. And at my age, I'm not getting to the point where it's tough for me. The level of work of directing is incredibly demanding. So
very demanding. Yes, you're right.
But I'm very, very, very happy about that. And the other big thing that's happened, and you never know if this will really pan out, but it looks like it's going to. But I've been involved with the Mike Hammer property for years.
Yeah.
Mickey Spillane, the creator of Mike Hammer, we became friends, and shortly before his death, he said, "I want you to finish anything that you find in my." I'll be a treasure hunter around here, and anything you find, I want you to complete. Make some money for my wife, right? Jane Spillane. So we looked at his three offices in South Carolina that were in his home, and I found an enormous amount of unfinished material, some of it substantial, and so I began completing those, and they've all been published. I think I've done 16 books, 14 Mike Hammers, always from Spillane material, and they're done. So Skydance optioned all of the books, not just the ones written by Mickey alone, but all the stuff, including my stuff. And they
Okay.
recently, and you may know this, they recently announced that Matthew McConaughey would play Mike Hammer.
I did hear that. I was waiting to ask you that question. That's pretty cool.
So there's a lot of things get optioned.
Yeah.
And that's a good way for a writer to occasionally get a nice little paycheck.
Right.
But you get the real money if they make the film. And
Right.
so I never think, I know that when we sold Road to Perdition, that everybody was saying to me, does your father know about this? And I'd say, I'm not telling my father about this until have been on the set.
Right.
Because he will tell everyone he knows that there's going to be a movie.
Right.
And then there's no movie.
Did you go on the set with?
Yeah, I was there. Barb and I were there for a couple days.
Oh, nice.
So, and then the cool thing. I mean, that was cool, very cool.
Yeah.
I think the most interesting thing about being on that set was how similar it was to an indie set, just like better craft service.
Right.
And you don't shoot in somebody's kitchen. You build a kitchen.
Right.
In an aircraft carrier hangar. But everybody was great. And Tom Hanks, we had Tom Hanks. We had Daniel Craig before he was James Bond.
Yeah.
And Paul Newman in his last movie role. So,
but I was figuring it wasn't. I didn't know it was his very last.
he did an HBO thing after that, but that was his last theatrical, and he was nominated for Academy Award.
Yeah.
And Conrad Hall won the Academy Award for that, and he passed away then. But yeah, so I try to operate on different levels on what I can do and what's more ambitious and so on. Again, it's the lottery tickets.
It is the lottery tickets, but you sign up and you bought the lottery ticket and you showed up. That's what you do. I want to, for those who are listening, I want to really, and please invite you to come to our Star City Film Festival and listen to this fabulous, wonderful person who's a Renaissance man. By the way, just so you know who are listening, you are also a musician.
Well, I've retired. I played rock and roll I had played in rock and roll bands since 1965.
Yeah.
I'm in the Iowa Rock and Roll Hall of Fame twice.
I read that. I was like, that is so cool. I mean,
I'm very proud of that.
That's pretty cool.
We opened for the Rascals. We opened for the Buckinghams.
Right.
It was a Strawberry Alarm Clock. I mean, it was really great. Really great time.
You're like hipster, dude. I think that's I wanted to bring that up because, to be a true Renaissance person, you have to have all the things that you do. And you are that guy. And that's why I really am so grateful that we get to have you as our guest of honor.
Well, I have to tell you that the question I'm asked most frequently is, particularly since I'm not a kid anymore, why do you work so hard? Why do you write so much? Why do you keep writing books? And
what?
It's not a real complimentary question. But I have a smart-ass answer, which is they don't send money to my house if I don't.
That's right.
I'm a working guy. I'm a working stiff.
But what else I mean, come on, that's who you are. It's like that.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? Not write? Not do movies? Not do? I have an intuition. I'm very intuitive. I do a lot of this for people. I think that your series, that your reading series that's just coming out or just came out, I think that's going to be a really great movie. I think that movie is going to be a hit. I bet.
Well, there's been interest in the Nate Heller books since the very first one came out, and early on we got a lot of. I mean, because it was something new, and then it became a series, and people kind of in a way took it for granted, but. We did have quite a bit of Hollywood interest, but in those early years, there are scenes in True Detective, that's the name of the book, which, not the TV show. That has everything to do with me. I was first, but in my novel True Detective, there's a huge sequence at the 1933 World's Fair, You know
Oh,
how so they'd look at these books and say, basically, these are unfilmable for for a realistic budget. Well,
right.
now we've got CGI. What can't they do?
Exactly. What can't they do? That's absolutely true.
So, and sometimes the movies are a little bit more CGI than story, but this does happen. But yeah, so, and then the other big thing I'll mention is, because I'm really proud of this, this is going to come out in January of next year, a book called Return of the Maltese Falcon,
Ooh, cool.
which is the sequel to the Maltese Falcon. Sam Spade, a lot of the characters from the first story, and thrilled about that. That's coming
I
out. Like I
do
said,
like.
January 67. What is it? 2026. Yeah.
Yeah, already. Wow, that's great. A sequel to. Wow, that'll be exciting.
That's fun
Got a lot
because it takes place something like a week or two after the end of the movie. So it just keeps going.
Wow.
Are we going to find the Maltese Falcon this time?
Uh-huh.
They
Wow.
didn't find it in the first story.
Now I have to rewatch that again. That's so exciting. Oh my gosh. Okay, so everybody listening, these are exciting things that you have to look. Do your research on Max Allan Collins because you will get completely involved in all, and then you'll want to read more and
A
see
lot of
more.
rabbit holes. A lot of rabbit
Lot of
holes.
rabbit holes. A lot of rabbit holes. So are you
But what
going?
about Death by Fruitcake? Hey, when can they see Death by Fruitcake?
You can come to Walk On, and it's going to be at the High School Theater, which is a gorgeous theater, beautiful sound system, and you can see Death by Fruitcake at our film festival. You can go to sacrednoisesociety.org is our website for the film festival. sacrednoisesociety.org. And the Star City Film Festival, you can also just Google it, and you could come to, and everybody's welcome. You can get there. We're having a $25 donation fee. If you don't want to donate to Sacred Noise Society, you don't have to. Everyone's welcome to see this beautiful, fun, entertaining film.
And
Along with
this is our film festival premiere. We
yeah,
we were in the Iowa Motion Picture Association competition, but that's not a festival.
no, it's not. Nope.
And then we did have a screening in Davenport at the Last Picture House, which is the
Yeah.
theater owned and operated by Beck and Woods, the famous young creators of A Quiet Place.
So cool.
And but very few people have seen this. In fact, some people are in it haven't seen it. So
Really?
yeah,
Well, it's a great movie. Invite your cast too if they can come. If they can make it, that'd be really fun.
yeah. I'm
But
keeping it on. I don't know if you've monitored my weekly
yeah,
update, which a blog I do every Tuesday, and so we're keeping the word out there. So we'll hope I have some people show up.
yeah.
I think there's a possibility my editor and who also was the producer of the movie, one of the producers, my wife Barb was another,
Yeah.
may be able to come. So
Great.
I'm hoping he'll be there. Very talented guy.
Yeah, I think it's a fun movie. It's a family fun movie. Everyone can come. It's it's got that your whole taste in film noir and kind of it's just got the flavor. It's hard to describe to people who haven't seen it because it's very special. It is a play within the play. I love Shakespeare and I love theater. So if you love film and you love Shakespeare and you love the theater and you love humor, then you will love Death by Fruitcake.
Well, I noticed that most people just smile or even laugh when they hear the title, Death
Yeah,
by
they do.
Fruitcake.
They do. It's true. It's a fun movie. So we'll have our film festival awards. We have 44 films at our film festival. It's a 4-day festival. We start Thursday evening. So it's going to be a really fun festival. It's very down home. It's during Corn Days in Waukon, Iowa, and there's lots of new people to expose our film festival to and new work who haven't really gotten the bite into indie films. So that's one of my missions is to bring everyone in to showcase what we're doing in the Midwest, what we're doing across the country as well, because a lot of our filmmakers are from across the country. And but you get to kick it off as the guest of honor. And then we're going
Are some of the other filmmakers going to be in attendance?
oh yeah. I would say half of our movies are represented by their filmmakers, which is really amazing for a film festival.
That's great. That's
Yeah.
great. I'm thrilled to be invited and looking forward to being there.
Yeah.
First of all, I am going with my wife to the San Diego Comic Con,
Yeah, I was just gonna say the week
which
before.
is right the weekend before. So
Hmm.
I may be crawling in on my hands and knees because it's pretty. If you've ever been to one of those, I mean, they have, it's a building with 100,000 people in it. It's.
Yeah, you go from Comic Con to the Star City Film Festival. Very, very different. I
But
love.
I don't want anybody to ask me which one I prefer, but I'm I'm most excited about the film festival, to tell you the truth.
Well, you get to be. Yeah, this is a very. It's a very. People get to know each other. They come back. It's a very cool experience.
And
Um,
it's corn days.
oh, it's corn days. We are.
I've served up my share of corn in my time.
I bet you have. I bet you have. So Friday night in Wakan, there's they shut down the main street, which is really cool, and everybody eats outside. It's really cool. And then we have a street dance. We know how to party, and we know how to it's like a Hallmark movie. I swear to God. But
I just retired last year from my band, or I'd be bugging you to have us play at the street dance.
I know. Well, you never know. You might come out of retirement because my theater, which is the brand new theater in the lot behind where I live, which is really cool. It's beautiful. Called Three Dolphins Theater is also designed. It's a theater. It's an amphitheater for musicians as well. So
Great.
we also have staged readings during the festival. We're going to read new scripts. I love to. People have entered the film festival with their new movie scripts. I very committed to reading staged. We do cold readings. I love it. I love to do them for the audience, and the audience
Well,
knows
they're very entertaining to watch. I mean,
totally.
yeah, it's a lot of fun to see a script brought to life that way.
It is. It's really interesting. It's great for the writer to hear.
Oh
You
yeah.
can bring actors. Sometimes I grab people I'm known for. Like, hey, you're perfect for this part. Get up here and read it. And it's just so much fun. The audience knows that the actors have never seen the script before, and it's one of my seriously favorite things to do. And that's one of the reasons that I.
Well, it's very good. It's very good for writers because they can hear this stuff and hear what works and what doesn't work.
Yep.
It's having it brought to life even on that level is incredibly beneficial to the process.
If you have anything, we would be honored to have anyone read a part of anything that you would, I'd love to read a cold read one of your scripts. It's my jam. So that's.
Well, I have a script. I have the first Nathan Heller script, True Noir, which is called Dying in the Post-War World.
Ooh.
Is it too late to send it to you?
No, not for you, Max.
It's pretty rough. We're in David Lynch territory at times.
Yeah, but that's my favorite thing. That's the best thing about reading a script that's so raw like that. It's just, yeah, you should totally send it. We'll read it. Yeah, we have the theater at night. We have great lighting. People can bring extra lawn chairs. It's a wonderful thing to watch. Neighbors were invited. It's the reason I do this, Max. So yes, I will.
All right, it'll be coming your way shortly after. As soon as we get off camera, I'll make it happen.
Sounds good. So the film festival is July 31st through August 3rd in Waukon, Iowa. It's about an hour south of La Crosse, Wisconsin, right along the beautiful Mississippi. It's in the middle of the most gorgeous rolling hills called the Driftless region. People are lovely here. Food is good.
For the drive. Worth it for the drive, right?
So worth it for the drive. So worth it for the drive. We have people coming in flying in from California. We have Chicago people coming in. And so, it's Minneapolis. We have filmmakers from Minneapolis coming in. It's a beautiful place, especially this time of year. It's a lush, wonderful experience. There's room to camp. If people can't find a hotel around here, just email me at sacrednoisesociety.org, and I can find a way to hook you up to find places, because there's lots of cool bed and breakfasts in the middle of the country. And Wakan is really an up and coming community, because people are moving from the cities to be in Iowa because we can commute, like what we're doing right now. So thank you so much.
Katie, thank you. I think you're great, and I'm so excited to be part of your film festival.
Okay. We'll see you soon. Can't wait to read that script too.
All right, I'll get it right out to you. But it might scare some people away from Death by Fruitcake, because it's a rough ride. It's a rough ride.
I think maybe we'll read it after we go to, and we'll come back after and read it late.
Maybe.
That'd be kind of
midnight reading.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Sounds fun.
Thank you, Katie.
Welcome. Have a great rest of your evening.
You too.